What's up, my loyal subjects? It's me again, the old school video game king, and I'm about ready to start a Minimalist and Ganondorf Amiibo run through the hero mode of the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD for the Wii-U. For those of you who don't know, a Minimalist run is where you go through the game collecting only the items that are required in order to beat the game. Choosing to play through hero mode means that you'll be taking double damage from enemies, and they also don't drop any hearts, nor will you find any by slashing grass or breaking pots and stones. Besides taking double damage and not getting any heart drops, the game will also be mirrored on hero mode, which I suppose is what the Wii Twilight Princess owners are used to, but I always played through the GameCube version, so the mirrored world might mess with me from time to time as I attempt this challenge. Scanning the Ganondorf Amiibo will cause Link to take double damage. Stack that on top of the double damage that you take for playing on hero mode and you'll be taking a whopping 4 times the damage from enemy attacks. Plus, since you can't get any heart drops in hero mode, and I'm not allowed to pick up any heart pieces or heart containers as a minimalist, I'm definitely going to have to be very careful throughout this run. There will be some places that I can heal at, like hot springs, but those places are pretty few and far between. You can't activate Amiibo functionality until you've been changed back from Wolf Link into Human Link for the first time, so I won't be able to activate the Ganondorf Amiibo until then. The items that I'm not allowed to get as a minimalist are the Hawkeye, Hylian Shield, Magic Armor, and no bottles. I'm forced to get the bottle with milk from Sarah, but I'm not allowed to ever use it since it's not required for anything. I also can't get any wallet, quiver, or bomb bag upgrades. Plus I can only carry 1 bomb bag and I can't get any bombings. I'm only allowed to get 1 hidden skill and it's the ending blow. I'm also forced to burn the Ordon shield the first chance that I get, and I can't use the horse call either, since neither of them are required. One thing that I don't like much about Twilight Princess is that it takes a little too long before you're able to reach the first real dungeon of the game. The reason why it takes so long is because you'll have to go through a lot of tutorials. They'll teach you about riding on Epona, using the sword, traveling around as Link, and eventually you'll have to go through even more tutorials as Wolf Link where they'll teach you how to fight as him and use all of his other wolf abilities. So yeah, it's gonna take a little while. In fact, we're probably going to be spending the first 2 parts of this run just trying to get through them all. I actually think that working around the village is kind of relaxing, but I start getting a little impatient by around the time that you have to start the first Tears of Light mission because I feel like by that point you should already be at the Forest Temple. The first day of work is over once you've herded the goats at the ranch. You'll be traveling around the village a little more on the second day, so things will get a little more interesting. Your main objectives on day 2 are to earn money for the slingshot and learn how to use the sword. Obviously there have been some improvements made in this version, and I'm going to try and point them out as I go through it. I've always wondered about Link's normal clothes in this game. I mean, if you look at everyone else's clothes, they look pretty normal. But then if you take a look at what Link's wearing, it looks like he rummaged through someone's trash and took all of the old clothes that he found and then cut off all the good parts and stitched them together. It's a very weird looking outfit. There's quite a few small jobs to do throughout this day, but it shouldn't take too long to complete everything. This guy's name is Jaggle. His head looks like it got stuck inside of a can for a long period of time. He's got kind of a Bart Simpson type thing going on there. There's a number of different places where you can collect money in this village. You can get half of the money that you need for the slingshot in the branches of a nearby tree. Just use this bird to knock the beehive down from up there. I like that you can skip the cutscene with the bird flying to you, because it would get a little bit annoying if you had to watch it every time. You're going to need 30 rupees in order to afford the slingshot. Even if you have the money for it, you can't buy it until you catch a fish for Sarah's cat, which is what we're working towards right now. I talked about the Ganondorf Amiibo earlier, but you can also use the Link, Toon Link, Zelda, and Sheik Amiibos with this game as well. Scanning Link or Toon Link will restore all of your arrows, and scanning Zelda or Sheik will fully recover all of your hearts. Also, for anyone who's wondering, I bought the bundle that came with the Wolf Link Amiibo, and I'm going to be doing the Cave of Shadows as well as the Cave of Ordeals under these restrictions as well. They'll be included in a bonus episode after the main game is finished. Once you've brought the cradle back to Yuli, she'll ask you to take it to her house. Just head straight there, you don't have to walk with her. She'll give you the fishing rod once you've dropped it off. One change in this game is that you don't have to pause it in order to switch weapons. You can just equip them using the Wii U's gamepad. which I like doing because every time that I started a new file in the GameCube version, I would always use the start button to bring up my sub-weapons, and I'd always end up bringing up the equipment screen instead. I would eventually get used to pressing up on the D-pad for my sub-weapons, but it was still a little bit annoying to adjust to. Two more differences in this game is that Link's swimming animation has been sped up a little bit, and you only have to catch one fish for the cat now. I remember this part stumped me on my first run of the game. It seemed obvious that you had to catch a fish for the cat, but whenever nothing happened after I caught the first fish, I figured that I had to do something else instead. I eventually looked it up and found out that I had to catch 2 fish, which is kinda stupid in my opinion. Thankfully they changed that in this version though. Personally, I'm more of a dog person in real life, partially because I'm a little bit allergic to cats. Plus my family has always had dogs growing up. I do like cats, but I'd just much rather have a dog. I think cats are easier to take care of, but dogs seem funner to play with, and they also seem a little more protective of you as well. Alright, from here the only thing that we have left to do in the village is finish collecting money. There's a yellow rupee located on top of the mayor's house, and to get there just climb up that ladder and then turn and climb some crates. From here just climb up the nearby ladder up to the top of the roof. I love the Ordon Village music. It's a really peaceful sounding song, and it helps make this part of the game a little more relaxing. From here you'll want to return to the big tree that you knocked the beehive down from earlier. There's a blue and a yellow rupee in the branches that you can collect. If you've done everything right up to this point, then you'll have all of the money that you'll need for the slingshot once you've gotten everything out of the tree. Another difference in this version is that Link climbs a little faster. I'm especially happy for that improvement because I felt like he climbed way too slow in the original game. Be careful as you try to get these 2 rupees. The branches are pretty small, so it's easy for you to fall down. Just tippy-toe your way over to them. Once you've gotten both of them, hop down from the tree and then head to Sarah's Sundries. Whenever you get there, she'll be adoring her cat and she'll give you a bottle that's filled halfway with milk. Like I said earlier, I'm not allowed to drink the milk or use the bottle at all. I'm just forced to take it in order to purchase the slingshot. I think Twilight Princess probably has my favorite item get fanfare. It's kinda sad that the slingshot is almost always doomed to be overshadowed by the bow in almost all of the Zelda games that they're both in. It's a shame that you can't ever upgrade it in this game either. Then again, you can't upgrade any of the weapons in this game, unless you count getting more bombs or the double claw shots, but that's more along the lines of you finding another item to pair up with what you already have, but I digress. It also kinda sucks that the weapons don't see much use outside of their respective dungeons. It's a shame because I think that Twilight Princess has some of the coolest weapons in the entire series. Not necessarily the most useful, but definitely some of the most badass in my opinion. Once you've gotten the slingshot, leave the store and head back to your house. Russell will stop you on your way there and he'll tell you that he left something for you inside of it. Use the slingshot to destroy the skull wall too, and just ignore the kids for now. Even though I find parts of this game's intro to be kind of relaxing, I would still rather skip over all of the tutorials, like herding the goats and showing off for the kids to name a few. They give you the option to say no to those, but if you do then they'll just be all like, "Oh, okay. Well, we'll be waiting right here whenever you're ready." And so you can't actually advance the story until you do them. It's kind of annoying. Another change in this version is that you can aim stuff by using the Wii-U gamepad's gyroscopic controls now. You can still aim them with the analog stick too, so if you prefer to do it that way, then that's still an option. Maybe it's just me, but I always found it a little strange how you pretty much have to show off for the little kids in order to progress. I guess Link is supposed to be teaching them how to use the weapons, but they seem more entranced by him than intrigued. It's clear that Beth has a big-time crush on Link, Talos seems to idolize him, and Mallow's just a dick. Whenever it comes to the graphics of the original versions of the 3D Zelda games, I think that Wind Waker's art style aged the best, but Twilight Princess had the most impressive-looking graphical style in my opinion, so I'm liking the HD overhaul in this game. I did think that everything was a little too dark in the original versions of Twilight Princess, and it does seem like everything has been brightened up a bit, so I'm also glad for that as well. You'll only be using the wooden sword throughout this intro segment. You won't need it anymore once you've saved Talo and the monkey. You actually don't get a whole lot of equipment in this game. There's only 2 swords and 2 shields, and only 2 out of 3 of the armors are required. Really, by the time that you get the Master Sword, you should already have the most powerful sword and shield. It's too bad they didn't create a two-handed sword for this game. Not that we'd be able to use it for this run, but still. I mentioned wallet upgrades earlier. That's another thing that's been changed in this version. Your default wallet can now hold 500 rupees instead of 300. The big wallet can hold 1,000 instead of 600. And the giant wallet can hold 2,000 instead of 1,000. Furthermore, if you find rupees inside of a treasure chest but can't carry all of them, they'll still get added to your wallet anyway. I'm really happy for that change because I hate leaving chests marked down on maps, and I always found it annoying that I had to do that in the original versions if I had too much money. Another thing that's been changed around with rupees is that you don't have to be reminded of how much each color is worth every time that you reload your save. Thank goodness for that. That issue got even more annoying in Skyward Sword whenever you picked up a treasure after loading a save, because not only would you have to be reminded of what the treasure was, but you'd also have to sit through the game placing it in your inventory. As soon as you're finished going through the tutorial for the sword, the kids will chase after the monkey. Now's the part of the tutorial where the game will throw you into some actual combat. Hop onto Epona and chase after the kids. Just keep heading through the woods until you reach a long cave. Before you enter it, be sure to talk to this guy. His name is Koro. He'll give you the lantern, which you'll need in order to burn some of the web that'll be blocking your way through the tunnel. It kinda cracks me up that Koro has a bird's nest in his hair. Kinda makes me wonder if he just doesn't mind having it there for the birds, or if he's just completely oblivious to it. I like that the lantern uses oil in this game. I don't know why, but I just do. I'm going to have to be careful with how much I use it because I'm not allowed to store any oil in a bottle. I'm not going to bother hunting down Poes throughout this run, but there have been a couple of changes with them as well. First of all, you can get a new item that's called the Ghost Lantern, which lights up whenever a Poe is nearby, even if it's daytime. You get it from Giovanni after you've collected 20 Poe souls. The amount of Poes that you've defeated and the amount remaining in each area is also tracked on the map now, which is really helpful for finding out where you need to go Poe hunting at next. Obviously, this game also makes use of Miiverse as well. There are 50 Miiverse stamps that you can find scattered across the overworld. There'll be stamps of stuff like rupees, treasure chests, characters, and even the Helian alphabet. There's a pretty decent amount of enemies to kill throughout this part, but you can actually just run by most of them, which is what I'd recommend doing so that you can save as much health as possible. Even with the wooden sword, all of the enemies are easy to kill, but they're just as easy to avoid. Plus it saves time to just go around them. Head to the upper left corner of this area and you should find this cave. Defeat the Bokoblin and the Keys and then grab the key from the chest. Leave the cave after that and start heading to the lower right part of the area and you'll find a locked gate that you can use it on. I'm kinda glad that they used the GameCube version's overworld for the normal mode in this game. Although honestly I think that they should have offered both and let you choose which one that you want to play through whenever you start the file. I feel kinda bad for the people who are used to the Wii version's overworld, because the only way that they can play through that one is to go through hero mode. I think it would have been awesome if they would have found a way to implement the 3DS in this game. Like maybe as like a tingle tuner sort of item. I didn't really expect anything like that to happen, but it would have been awesome if it did. Once you've arrived at the gate, you can either take out the Bokoblins, or if you're quick, then you can just unlock it and roll into the tunnel to reach the next area. We're just about done with this segment. We're on the final area now. Just follow the straightforward path and ignore the Bokoblins. Tallow and the monkey will be caged up at the end of this path, and you'll have to defeat 2 Bokoblins, which shouldn't pose a threat whatsoever. I remember reading a while back that the Wii version of Twilight Princess actually had more glitches than the GameCube version. I read that it was probably due to it having an earlier release. I remember that one of the glitches could be used to create an incompletable file by doing something in the cannon room. I don't remember what it was, I just remember that it had something to do with the cannon room. I also heard that there was some other stuff that was left in the Wii version as well, like green chews and some sort of debug function that let you skip through the Cave of Ordeals by putting out the torches on each floor. Slash the cage after you defeated the 2 Bokoblins to break it open and end Day 2. Day 3 will mostly be all about teaching us how to use Wolf Link. About the only thing that we'll have to do as a human is herd some more goats. I love it whenever Link is able to transform into a different type of character. Besides the wolf in this game, the only other noteworthy transformations really just come from Majora's Mask. He was able to transform into a fairy in The Adventure of Link, and a bunny in A Link to the Past, and a variety of things by using the transformation rings in the Oracle games, but all of those were totally useless. with the exception of the fairy, I guess, since you could fly over stuff and slip through keyholes. Deku, Goron, and Zora Link are all a ton of fun to play as, though, and of course Fierce Deity Link is extremely overpowered. You could call Epona to you by using the horse grass that was next to you at the beginning of this part, but it's just as quick to run to her since you don't have to wait through the cutscene with Link playing the song. There's nothing much new with this herding segment. You'll have to herd 20 goats instead of 10, but that's it. Just do what you did before and you'll be fine. I kinda like that you can name Epona in this game. It's kinda nice if you want to name her after a pet of your own or something like that. This game also has some really fun horseback combat, and you'll get to see some of that later on. Yet another difference in this version is that you can see horse grass on the gamepad's map, which is really convenient whenever you need to call Epona as soon as possible. The controls for Epona also seem to have been altered in this version as well, and not for the better, unfortunately. It feels like she doesn't turn as sharp. A lot of times I feel like I have to hold pretty far to the left or right to make her turn, which definitely takes some getting used to. I've never really been a big fan of herding minigames, to be honest. I'm okay at them. Sometimes I do pretty good, other times not so good. More often than not, they end up being annoying because there's always that one creature that loves to run the complete opposite way and won't listen to anything that you try to tell it. I think the first herding minigame that I ever played was probably Beaver Bother in Donkey Kong 64, and that quickly became one of, if not my most hated minigame from that game. As a matter of fact, I think that Beaver Bother just might be the only other herding minigame that I've played besides the one with the goats in this game. I remember a theory that I read a while back suggested that Link and Malon got married in Ocarina of Time, which is how he ended up working on a ranch in this game. It's not necessarily something that I believe, but it's still something to think about, I guess. Once you've finished herding the goats, you'll have to jump the fences to get back into the village again. You'll also be giving up the wooden sword shortly as well. I've kinda gotta question the story for this part of the game. What happens at this part is Link goes back into the village and Ilia notices that Epona has an injury. She quickly blames it on Link, saying that it was probably because he was making her jump fences, and then she quickly begins to pamper Epona, being all like, "Come on, baby, I'll take you to the hot spring and we'll get that all taken care of." So then you make your way there, and on the way there you meet up with the kids. The kids are mad at Colin because he told his dad that they went into the forest and that got them into trouble. Link gives the wooden sword to the kids and Colin decides to go see Ilia. You meet up with them and Ilia's locked the gate to the spring and refuses to let Link in. Colin says that it's because she doesn't know about what happened yesterday and that we should take the secret path to get in while he explains everything to her. What I gotta wonder is, how did she, of all people, not know about what happened? First of all, for a village as small as Ordon, you'd think that the news of an incident as big as a kid getting captured would spread about pretty quickly. Second of all, she's the mayor's daughter. You'd think that she would know a little more about what's going on around the village than most of the other people do since she lives at home with her dad. Whatever, I suppose. There's a few parts where I have to question the story in this game, but I'll talk more about those later on. I don't think that this game's story is terrible or anything, but it does have some plot holes here and there. We're just about ready to start the first Wolf Link segment of the game. From here you'll have to take the secret path into the spring. There's only one way to go as you crawl, so just follow the path until you get through it. Once you get there, a cutscene will happen with Link getting knocked unconscious, and whenever he wakes up he'll be in his beast form. I've actually seen Wolf Link get requested quite a bit to be a playable character in the Smash Bros. Series. Personally, I'd be okay with that. He'd definitely be a unique character, that's for sure. Wolf Link actually has quite a few abilities that you can use, and I'll go over those in just a few seconds. Whenever you wake up, you'll be locked up in a cell. Just wait a minute and a cutscene will occur with Midna freeing you, and then you can start making your escape. Like I said before, Wolf Link has quite a few different abilities. He can dig around, which will sometimes let you go under and re-emerge on the other side of various stuff like gates and walls. Other times digging can be used to enter secret grottos or to dig up stuff like rupees and hearts. You can also use his wolf senses, which will let you see stuff that you normally couldn't, like ghosts, shadow insects, and other stuff like that. You also gain a better sense of smell and hearing, but those are only really relevant for progressing the story. You can also move faster, and you can jump long distances with Midna's help as well. You can talk to animals, including Epona, if you want to. Fighting as the wolf is a little clunkier than fighting as a human, but it's still not too tough. He's got a basic combo attack with the B button, where he'll bite a few times and then attack with his tail. He has a jump attack, which will sometimes let you latch onto the enemy and bite them for even more damage. And he also has a spin attack that will eventually get powered up and allow him to attack several distant enemies at once with it. One downside to playing as the wolf is that he takes twice the amount of damage as human Link, so you'll have to be more careful while playing as him, especially if you choose to do this challenge for yourself. From here you'll have to drain the water, and then you can make your way deeper into the area. Not a whole lot will get in your way as you make your escape from this dungeon, so you can just run right past almost everything. You'll only come across shadow vermin and a couple of shadow keys in this area, neither of which pose a threat. You can just run right past all of the shadow vermin most of the time because they won't even bother attacking you. It would be a good idea to take out the shadow keys though. From here, just run straight ahead in the opposite direction from the gate that you just opened up, and Midna will go through some bars. You'll have to crawl through this small hole in order to catch up with her. Everything is really straightforward from here. There aren't any more branching paths, so just follow the one-way path until you've met up with Zelda. Here's the part of the tutorial where you'll learn how to jump from place to place with Midna. It's actually one of my favorite things about playing as the wolf. I just think that it's a lot of fun to jump long distances at fast speeds. You'll eventually have to do some tightroping in this area. I gotta say, I'm quite impressed with how well Link is able to balance himself. I'm especially impressed at how effortlessly he makes tightroping look as a wolf. I mean, I've never done any tightroping myself, but I'd imagine that it's not all that easy to do. Just keep making your way up the steps. You'll have to climb quite a few of them, but it shouldn't take too long to get to the top. We're almost there now. We just gotta jump across one more set of bricks with Midna, and then we'll be at the top. You'll come across 3 shadow keys once you've finished climbing the stairs. Just use the jump attack to take them out one by one. There's actually another plot hole coming up pretty soon. So, our main objective right now is to reach Zelda, which sounds pretty normal, right? Well, there's nothing unusual about her, which in itself is pretty unusual considering that we're currently in a Twilight-infested area that obviously has abnormal effects on things, as I'm sure you've noticed. People get turned into ghosts or spirits or whatever they are. Link gets turned into a beast, Midna is her normal self instead of a shadow, etc., etc. So why is Zelda unaffected by the Twilight? I guess it really doesn't matter, and questioning it is pointless because in Videoland anything can happen, but it's still kind of odd, and most likely just an overlooked part of the story. There's no real reason to stop and talk to any of the people, unless you just want to see what they say. Otherwise, just run on by and ignore them. We're pretty much on the final stretch before we get to Zelda now. Throughout this area, you'll have to jump from roof to roof until you get to the tower where she's at. Some shadow cargo rocks will be flying around. I'd recommend taking out the first 2 that you come across so that they don't follow you to the next building. Just attack them with 2 jump attacks apiece and they'll be defeated. If you're quick, then you can just run right past the ones that are flying around this roof. Quickly enter the tower before they can attack you. Just quickly run over here to the right and then climb through the window and you'll be inside of the tower. There won't be any more enemies for you to deal with once you've went inside. From here, just climb up to the top to cue a few cutscenes with Zelda. They'll explain the backstory of the game and show how Zant took over Hyrule and how Zelda surrendered to him. Once the cutscenes are over, start making your way back down the tower to cue yet another cutscene. This one will basically just show Link and Midna escaping the tower. Once it's finished, you'll end up back at a spring. And I think that this will make a good stopping point. We got a lot of the tutorials finished, and we should be able to finish up everything and reach the Forest Temple in the next part. Whatever the case though, that is it for part 1.